whether thou art a ghost that hath come from the earth, or a phantom of night that hath no home, or one that lieth dead in the desert, or a ghost unburied, or a demon, or a ghoul. Whatever thou be, until thou art removed, thou shalt find here no water to drink. Thou shalt not stretch forth thy hand to our own. Into our house enter thou not. Through our fence break through thou not. We are protected, though we may be frightened. Our life you may not steal, though we may be scared to death.
Welcome to Scared to Death, Creeps, Peepers, Roberts, and Annabelles. I'm Dan.
Hello, Dan. I'm Lynze.
Oh, normal this week. Okay.
Oh, am I not normal usually?
Not when you announce yourself. That's probably the first time you just said Lynze in, 100 episodes.
Whoa, what do I normally say?
Something different every week.
Dang, well, I got to keep you on your toes.
You have a sticker street team announcement, and then I think we're off.
You bet I do, Dan. Hi, guys. It's Lynze. I have an announcement. On September 16th at 12 noon Pacific time, the stickers for Street Team will go live on our website, badmagicproductions.com, and the winner will be announced on November 4th. Keep an eye on socials for this. As we record ahead of time, we will announce the winners on the shows, both Time Suck and Scared to Death, but because of timing, it might be a little bit delayed. So keep an eye on your socials if you partake in this, and that's how we're going to try and get in touch with you. Now, the last 5 rounds of the Street Team have been an absolute freaking blast. Mm-hmm. And now this year, as we did last year, we are offering a $200 merch credit just for slapping some stickers around your neck of the woods.
Yep.
So the stickers are free, and there's only going to be 500 packets of them. First come, first serve. Please only take 1 per person. Please leave some for everyone else. And then once they're gone, that's it. You'll get your stickers in the mail, and then you just slap them anywhere you want. Snap a picture of where you've put them up, and then post that picture on Instagram and Facebook using the hashtag #BadMagicStreetTeam. Again, that's hashtag #BadMagicStreetTeam.
And tag us as well. It helps.
Oh, yeah. Great call, Dan. Thank you. And then, the goal is to just have fun with this. Don't do anything stupid. And here's our legal disclaimer. Bad Magic will not be held liable for any misplaced or illegally placed stickers. Please use your discretion. Please be smart. It is always comical. I love getting the occasional email from somebody who's like, I work at this fast food place and your stickers have been placed all over here and make it stop. And I'm like, I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. We had a movie theater and a hamburger place, I believe, last year.
Hilarious.
Hitting us up being like, please, enough. Leave us alone.
It's somebody's job to scrape stickers off the stall walls and whatnot. And then also just new for this year with the Street Team, we're also going to be releasing some official Street Team merch.
Nice.
So even when you're done slapping those stickers around town, you can still rep the shows and have bragging rights. There's going to be some t-shirts, sweatshirts, a couple other things. So keep your eye out for that. So just real quick, one more time. September 16th, 12 noon Pacific time is when the stickers go on sale, where you can get them, badmagicproductions.com. And then the winner will be announced on November 4th on socials. Slap those stickers around. Bad Magic Street Team is your hashtag. Tag us. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang.
Win $200 worth of merch.
Okay. Get it.
Okay, so how many fan-submitted horror stories do you have this week?
Go ahead and guess.
2.
Wrong. 3.
Okay.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, so my first tale, I think I'm going to reveal to you a new cryptid.
All right.
And that's all I'm going to tell you. Because that's all you need to know.
There are so many, allegedly. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I love, as we always say, this far in finding something new to be scared of.
Yep.
I love it. And then, in my second story, I can never pass up a chance to head to New Orleans. And we're not going exactly there, but we're kind of close. We're going to go to Thibodeau and explore some swampy spoops.
All right. Swamp, good place for horror.
Oh, yes. Just inherently creepy. And then my third and final story will be a lovely little palate cleanser. But it's a good one. I like it a lot.
All right. I'm excited to hear those.
Well, good.
I have my standard 2, some reportedly haunted woods in England, and a reportedly haunted former amusement park in West Virginia. And I think that's all the preview I'm going to give you.
I mean, we haven't been to an amusement park in a long time.
So you get socked up, and then I'll get started. What do you got this week?
These socks are really funny. On the back of the ankles.
Don't follow me, I'm lost too.
Yeah, they say, don't follow me, I'm lost too. Which, if you knew me, like that is beyond appropriate.
I love it. And thanks everybody for sending these socks in. It's crazy that she keeps getting them this far into the show as well.
I know, it's so sweet. And know that they go to good use after they get worn here. We have a fan in New Mexico who reaches out once a year and I send them to her and she packages them up in like Ziploc bags, I think with like some granola bars and whatnot for housing insecure folks that she comes across in her journeys. And so after they get used here, they get used in another way. And I love that.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so there is a fair amount of historical setup, interesting setup, I think, with both of the tales I'm telling today.
Okay.
Including this first one of the Daring Wood. The Daring Wood is a forest preserve located less than a mile from Pluckley, a little town once declared by the Guinness Book of World Records as England's most haunted village, with at least a dozen and possibly up to 40 different spirits supposedly haunting it. Pluckley is a small village with just over 1,000 residents in the Ashford district of the county of Kent. Historical references of Pluckley go back as far as 1086 CE, when it was already a significant settlement and had likely already existed for centuries. The village's parish church, dedicated to St. Nicholas, was established in the 13th century.
You guys, I love St. Nick.
St. Nick's Day. Several haunted locations in Pluckley are connected to the Daring family, who were powerful local aristocrats from the 15th century all the way until World War I. One haunted location in the village is the church I just mentioned, the Church of St. Nicholas. Many members of the Daring family are buried there in a chapel named after them, and some have reported seeing a dancing orb of light in an upper window of this chapel, accompanied by the sound of knocking, coming from the family vault. In the early 1970s, a group of psychic researchers persuaded the rector at the time, Reverend John Pittick, to allow them to spend the night in the church to conduct a proper paranormal investigation. They brought cameras, tape recorders, thermometers, all sorts of other ghost hunting tools in hopes of capturing evidence of the supernatural. When the vicar came to let them out in the morning, the group complained that nothing happened, and that the only relief from their boredom was watching the vicar's dog run and play around inside and outside of the church, and that was when the vicar told them, "I don't have a dog."
I knew it.
A historic home called Greystones is said to be haunted by the spirit of a monk, whose apparition has also been spotted drifting around amongst the trees behind the home. And according to local legend, the monk once fell in love with the daughter of a neighboring landowner, and when she unfortunately died at a young age, he fell into a deep depression. The happiest he'd ever been was when he would walk through some of the local wooded fields with her, the fields where his spirit is now most often spotted today. Not long after her passing, he is said to have died of a broken heart.
Oh.
Spirits have also allegedly been witnessed in and around another historic home called Rose Court, which was supposedly built by a member of the Daring family for his mistress during Tudor times. Visitors to Rose Court have claimed witnessing items moving around in the night and to have heard strange noises in the early morning hours. Another commonly cited spirit in the village is called the Watercress Lady, the ghost of a woman once known for selling watercress from the riverbanks. She was considered eccentric but harmless by locals. For years, nearly every night at sunset, she would sit on the walls of the bridge, smoke from her pipe, and drink from her flask. And then one evening, she said to have fallen asleep, dropped her lit pipe, which then set fire to her clothes. Her screams of agony rang out into the night as she burned alive, but no one came to her rescue. Her body was found the next day. Her ghost has allegedly been seen many times by many different people, and some have claimed to have even had the horrifying experience of witnessing her final moments, screaming and engulfed in flames. There are also reports of the apparition of a highway robber, who in the 1700s was pursued by an angry, murderous mob of locals, and he made his last stand near an oak tree that is no longer standing in the village. His apparition has been reported to have been witnessed fleeing across a field or seen laying lifeless, slumped next to the tree that once stood. Pluckley's blacksmith's forge tea room might be the most haunted building in the haunted village. It was first built back in the 14th century, and as the name describes, started off as a blacksmith's forge before later being converted to an alehouse and then to this tea house cafe, or tea room. 1997, author Richard Jones visited the site for his book Haunted Britain and Ireland. The owner at the time was Gloria Atkins, who said the place was haunted. She said several family members had seen a male spirit upstairs, also the apparition of a maid who was seen standing by the fireplace and turning a spit. Gloria also said she once witnessed a line of hanging mugs starting to clink together as though someone had just touched them. And one November afternoon when she was in the kitchen, she heard the front door carefully open and then close, as if someone had just let themselves in. She next heard the sound of a chair scraping against the floor, as if that someone was now sitting down at a table. She assumed it was a customer who had walked in, so she went out with her notepad in hand to take down their order, but the tea room was completely empty. However, one of the chairs had clearly just been moved away from the table. Darien Wood is believed to be just as haunted, if not more than Pluckley. The woods have been the subject of local paranormal folklore for centuries. During the day, you can safely enter and will likely encounter nothing more than other hikers or dog walkers along the path, but the woods are said to change drastically at night. One of the most commonly cited apparitions in the forest preserve is the ghost of that highway robber who was lynched by that mob of angry villagers in the 1700s. His spirit is occasionally seen wandering in the woods. But that's not what the woods are known for. They're known for the screams. Many, many people who have entered the forest at night, or who have spent the night, or at least attempted to have spent the night there, claim they've heard terrifying screams coming from all around them, screams that have earned the area the nickname of the Screaming Woods. Visitors have also often heard the sounds of footsteps preceding or accompanying these screams, and/or disembodied whispers. Some have even claimed to witness dark, shadowy apparitions pursuing or following them. An inordinate number of unexplained deaths, murders, and disappearances that have occurred in the Darien Wood have added to its sinister reputation, maybe behind the screams. On October 31st, Halloween night 1948, several villagers allegedly reported seeing strange orbs of lights, other light configurations, hearing odd sounds emanating from the woods, and then the next morning, supposedly the dead bodies of over 20 people were found lying on the forest floor.
What?
11 of the dead were children. A long-defunct local paper, the Smarden Post, reported on November 2nd, 1948, "Massacre in the Darien Woods. 5 families killed. The cause of death is unknown."
What the?
At approximately 8 a.m. on Monday, notification was received through the Ashford 999 Center of 20 bodies discovered by a hunter near the Smarden Bell Road in the middle of Darien Wood. The bodies were identified as belonging to the members of 5 families living around Maltman's Hill. They were piled up, one on the other, in a way that suggests the involvement of more than one killer. Officers from the Ashford Police Station, assisted by Detective Chief Inspector Connell Murray, are investigating the area right now. No wounds were found on the bodies, and the cause of death is still unknown. We are waiting for the autopsy, though we can already state that they died just hours before the discovery. Today we'll start questioning all the people living around the area, said DCI Murray. This tragic discovery could be linked to the still unexplained phenomenon of lights coming from the forest that many people witnessed the night before the murder. The autopsies failed to determine a clear cause of death. The authorities will ultimately list the probable cause of death as carbon monoxide poisoning and close the investigation. In 1964, a private investigator named Robert Collins conducted several in-depth interviews with witnesses to uncover the truth about these killings and an alleged cult in nearby Smarden, another village of around 1,000 people within a mile of Darien Wood. And it seems Collins believed the deaths of those 20-plus people were connected to this cult in some way, but then Collins died in a tragic accident in 1965, bringing an unexpected end to his research.
Accident?
Yet another tragedy occurred decades later in the late 90s when 4 college students camping in Darien Wood went missing. Similar to the 1948 case, on the night the college students disappeared, people in Pluckley reported seeing, quote, figures of light similar to spider webs in the sky. Their bodies have never been found, and the active investigation into their disappearance is said to have ended after only a few weeks. It is important to note that this narrative might be nothing more than a creepypasta story, as some have claimed, and that the images of old newspaper clippings may have been fabricated to give credence to the urban legend. Or it's all too real. It is getting harder and harder to tell what's real and what is not real on the web, as AI and other tech advances have made forgeries harder and harder to detect. Bad for the world at large, maybe good for the world of horror. Whether or not those deaths occurred, Darien Wood is still recognized as one of the most haunted places in all of England. The following story comes from a time before the internet existed and before the Guinness Book of World Records declared Pluckley to be the most haunted village in England, when far less people knew about what reportedly happens in Darien Wood after the sun goes down. Time now for the tale of the Screaming Woods. Angela stared out her parents' car window and watched the roads transition from busy city streets to quiet country lanes surrounded by trees. She and her parents were driving from their home just outside of London to a family reunion in Pluckley. They were celebrating her paternal grandmother's 80th birthday. Angela was eager to see her, but she wasn't looking forward to spending the night in the tiny village and having to make awkward conversation with aunts, uncles, and cousins she hadn't seen in years, many of whom she didn't really miss. Her Granny Daphne had 6 children, which meant that her extended family was massive. It was inevitable that they wouldn't all be close or have that much in common. The only cousins she spoke to somewhat regularly were Christy, who was attending King's College in London, and Stephen, the son of her father's twin brother. They would thankfully be staying the night at Stephen's house. Both her parents hated driving in the dark, so they'd leave first thing the following morning. Her aunt and uncle had a small 2-bedroom house, and Angela knew she'd be sleeping on a couch if she was lucky. Most likely, she'd be on the floor. It was foggy that day. A thick mist blanketed the entire village, making it difficult to see ahead more than 30 or 40 feet on the winding roads. Angela couldn't help feeling anxious that they would hit someone or something, and she felt very relieved when they finally pulled safely into her uncle's driveway. Soon they were putting their bags down and making the short walk to Granny Daphne's home. By the time they got there, a few of her aunts and uncles were already in the kitchen finishing up cooking. Angela made herself useful by helping some of her younger cousins rearrange tables and chairs, and soon the party was in full swing. It was loud and chaotic, but Angela ended up having a better time than she'd expected. It was good to see her family. It had been a few years since they'd had such a big gathering. After all the cleaning was finished, she was pretty exhausted, even though it was only about 7 o'clock. Granny Daphne went to bed earlier and earlier the older she got, and she not so subtly hinted to everyone that she needed them out of the house soon so she could get a rest. She and her parents were walking home by 7:30. It was already pitch black outside like it always was that time of year. There were very few street lamps in the village once you were off the main road, and they had to rely on flashlights to ensure that nobody tripped and fell. Her uncle made a fire in the fire pit he'd set up near his garden, and while the adults sat around drinking and chatting, Angela, Stephen, and her cousin Christy, who had tagged along with them, were all sitting together in Stephen's room trying to think of what to do for the rest of the night. They already knew there was no real nightlife in Pluckley. The village pub would be shutting down soon, and even if it wasn't, it's not like it was going to be full of a lot of other people their age. So they decided to go for a little nighttime walk in the woods, as suggested by Stephen. The girls shrugged their shoulders and reluctantly agreed. It's not like there was anything else to do. They'd both been on walks down the path that cut through the forest, but Angela had only been during the day, never at night. Stephen approached the parents, told them that they were going out for a while. Nobody asked where. There was no need. There really wasn't much trouble they could get into in or around Pluckley. Angela and Christy flanked Stephen as they made their way towards the woods. Stephen lived just a 5-minute walk from the path. They had a view of the woodland from their back garden. They spoke few words to each other as they walked. Angela preferred living in the city, but she did enjoy the peace and quiet that came with being out in nature. She focused on the breeze rustling the leaves and the melancholy calls of an owl in the distance. Stephen was the only one using his flashlight, and his single beam of light was enough for them to see, as long as the fog had subsided since the afternoon. Christy was the first to break the silence, saying, "This is a bore, Steve. Let's turn back. I thought you said this place was interesting." "I said it might be interesting," Stephen replied. "It's better than sitting around with nothing else to do." Christy said nothing to that, and Angela kept quiet. She thought she would be frightened out here, but she was rather enjoying herself. She found herself wanting to keep going as far as her legs would take her, deeper and deeper into the woods, off of the trail. Of course, she wouldn't do that. She wasn't stupid enough to go wandering into a dark forest after 10 p.m. Soon she wasn't sure how long they'd been walking, maybe 20 minutes, maybe longer. None of them had their watches on. They were approaching a section of the trail that curved to the right, and the view ahead was obscured. The woods became much thicker, with the trees overhead blocking out any moonlight. Angela looked up at the trees, trying to discern as many distinct sounds as possible, when one noise cut through them all. A high-pitched, shrill woman's scream. It was faint, coming from someplace far in the distance, but it was there. It was unmistakable. And she wasn't the only one who heard it. They all stopped walking in unison and listened. It was silent for a long time after that. Just as Angela opened her mouth to say something, they heard it again. That scream. This time it sounded closer. Angela gripped her cousin's arm. "You're hearing that woman, right?" She wondered why she was whispering. "Yeah," Steve said. Christy nodded before speaking. "Why is there a woman screaming in the woods?" "I don't know," Steve answered. "I think we need to go find her. She might need help." Steve shook his head. "No, I don't think we should." He had a strange look on his face, not one of worry, but wariness. Almost as if he didn't really believe there was a woman in distress in the woods. Why was that? Angela wondered. What do you mean? Christy continued arguing. Of course we should. Lower your voice, Steve warned. Christy seemed disgusted with him, now saying before pulling her flashlight out of her coat pocket and marching ahead, I don't know what's gotten into the two of you, but I'm going to help. Steve reached out for her, but she shrugged him off, glaring at him angrily as he called out, Christy, listen to me. Angela listened for the woman's scream again. She realized that the woods had grown completely silent. Sometimes, Steve began, there are strange things out here. Things that don't make any sense. I've heard this before, my dad and I. We followed the scream and there was nothing there. Christy looked at him in disbelief. What are you on about? She shook her head. Whatever, I'm going. She stomped off the path in the direction of the scream. Steve cursed under his breath and looked at Angela. Come on, let's follow her. As soon as they were all off the path, they heard the woman scream again. She sounded even closer to them now. They'd only just started walking. Could they really be that close to it? Angela wondered. No, she thought. It was getting closer to them. That thought didn't bring her any comfort. Like Steve, she had a distinct feeling that whatever was in the woods was not a woman in need of assistance. She wanted to run back down the trail until she was locked safely inside her uncle's house, but she couldn't abandon Christy. And Christy now shouted, Hello! Is anyone out there? We're here to help you. Call out to us so we can find you. But the woods remained eerily silent. Angela didn't like this. It felt like Christy was drawing attention to them. She wanted to help someone if they needed it, of course, but at the same time, she was afraid what would happen when they found this woman. She was starting to believe Steve. Christy, be quiet! Steve hissed at her. Just come back! There's nothing out here! Christy turned around to face him. Someone might need our help. I don't understand why. Angela's gasp cut her off. Angela raised a hand and pointed straight ahead, unable to form words. A pale, almost translucent woman had appeared out of thin air. She stood at a distance, but was close enough for Angela to see that her feet were barely brushing the ground. A slight glow emitted from the woman. Steve turned to look where his cousin was pointing. He too gasped in shock, which was quickly followed by Christy. Christy, who was being stubbornly brave at this point, was the first to speak. Are you all right? Do you need help? They all watched in silence as the glowing woman shook her head back and forth. No, she didn't need their help. Christy took a step towards her, hand outstretched. The woman shook her head again. Christy hesitated. Steve spoke next. Angela realized that she had hardly spoken the entire night. The woods had somehow rendered her silent. Christy, Steve said, come back now. We need to leave. Don't talk to it anymore. For once, Christy listened. She took a step back, and together they all began to step back further, arms interlocked. They walked backwards, step by step, never taking their eyes off of the woman, until they were back around the curve and out of view. Ah! The woman's scream felt 10 times louder now, and she sped towards them, her mouth open and frozen in horror, or rage, or both. They ran as fast as they could back to Steve's house, never looking back until they were out of the woods. Angela was breathless by the time they got to the front door. What was that? Angela asked, panting. Steve took a deep breath before answering. I don't know, but I told you there's strange things out there, things that can't be explained. Angela and Christy were terrified, but at least neither felt guilty about abandoning someone in the woods. That lady was clearly not a living person. As crazy as it felt for them to accept what had happened, they'd seen an actual ghost. They chatted a bunch about it that night, wondering what happened to her. What trapped her spirit in those woods? Why did she scream? Had she been murdered? Did she not know she was dead? Was she angry that her killer had never been caught? Was she the ghost of a victim or the ghost of someone who had done something terrible? Angela tried to put the whole thing out of her mind. Then, years later, she read an article that Pluckley had been named the most haunted village in England. That made her shudder, thinking of the memory of that night in the woods. Several years after that, she returned to the village for a family visit, this time with her young son. When he asked to walk down the path into the woods, Angela told him no, and redirected his attention to something else. She'd promised herself she would never go back there, whether the sun was out or not.
Ichiwawa. Good scream.
Okay, good. I couldn't see because it's like dark and I was trying to focus on the story.
Yeah.
But I could sense movement and I was hoping you were a little bit distracted. And I was really hoping to get a big jump out of you.
You didn't get a big jump, but I was like, whoa, that was a good scream. But then after you screamed, I was like, oh man, there are going to be some listeners who jump.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because it's just, that was great. Good job. You're good. You're a good screamer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's great. I don't think I can do that.
I'm working on screaming and not mangling my voice when I scream.
Oh yeah, because like after one of the nightmare fuels, you came home and you said that it took you screamed, then it was like, uh-oh, and you had to take a long break.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to see some photos before you have questions, or do you want questions
first?
Sure,
no, let's photo first.
Okay, so this first one, this is Daring Wood during the day. And I mean, looks, very peaceful, actually. Looks a pretty little...
Yeah, it like the forest floor is covered with like very low growing green something or another. Is like not moss, but just like these like soft little plants.
Little tiny leafed plants, yeah.
It feels very like happy little fairies would be dancing around there. Or it seems like one of those... sometimes you go to the doctor's office and they'll put these things like these like peel-and sticks on the windows of the inside of the rooms to like keep you calm. It kind of looks like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I like those, like whatever that foliage is. It's not ferns, but just a bunch of like kind of broad-leafed, very low-level plants that it's almost like raised lawn.
Yeah, just like
under the forest. So much
soft
green.
Ground cover. Yeah, and it lets a lot of light in. It's like not a very dense. Even though there are a lot of trees, the tree leaves are very light. Yeah, it's really pretty.
It's really pretty. Here's it at night.
Okay, a little less pretty, a little creepy.
Yeah, that's with there's a fog and there's some house there in the distance.
Yeah, that like very thin sort of foliage with the mist creates it makes all the tree branches just look like a lot of arms.
Yeah. And this one was, I think this is by the Daring Wood. I will say it's getting harder and harder because there'll be articles about these places, and they like if it's an article about any haunted forest.
Yeah.
They don't say in the article if the photo is of the forest or not.
Oh.
There were some other ones that were creepier, but I'm like, that doesn't match at all. So
interesting.
So this one maybe.
Okay.
And then one more for this story, just a picture of that supposedly haunted St. Nicholas Church in Pluckley, Kent at night. And this is from National Geographic, just a beautiful shot.
That is a beautiful old, like, cobblestoney church.
With that, and the stained glass contrasting with the old cobblestone.
Yeah.
It's really pretty.
Yeah, nice steeple. Yeah, really pretty.
Yep, and the little cemetery just leading up to it. And
I didn't take that as a cemetery. Good job.
Those headstones.
Yeah, I just thought those were just like randomly placed.
Yeah, old headstones.
Yeah. Molded over and everything. Interesting. Okay. Cool. Okay, let's start with Christy. Is Christy a bit of a Donna? Like she just like would not stop going.
Yeah.
Like she and it's tough because as a very empathetic person, my natural inclination is always to go to somebody who I think is in need.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see some of myself in Christy.
Yeah.
But I also was like, okay, bitch, listen, knock it off. He's telling you not to go.
Yeah.
And he's definitely scared, apprehensive. So like, I don't know, could you just heed the warning?
Yeah, I wonder like, because when they said that she was like, kind of translucent, feet barely touching the ground, a little bit glowing, it's like, at that point, or I think you would know, this is not a person.
I would hope.
Like, this is not a regular person.
I mean, I know I glow. Like, I have very dewy skin, but I'm not translucent.
But I do wonder, like, we're so inclined, hopefully most of us are so inclined, to help, like, a woman in distress, a child in distress, or just, like, whatever, some dude in distress. I mean...
It is harder to want as a female, it is harder to want to help a dude because my hackles are instantly up and I'm like, do you need help? Or are you pretending you need help and then you're going to clobber me over the head and that's the end of Lynze?
Well, and it depends on the size of the dude, which is an unfortunate thing for bigger guys if they're in trouble. But it's like, if you are 5'0" and 110 pounds, like a more of a pixie build of like a guy.
A pixie build. A petite, slim build is what I think you meant to say. Okay,
yeah, but a smaller build. It's like, and I don't know, you have an especially friendly face. It's like, you're not going to appear as threatening because right or wrong, I would think that like average sized woman would be like, okay, I might be able to take him. But if it's like a 6'2", 250 pound guy with...
It looks like you, I'm out.
I mean, yeah, I'm screwed. If I need help in the woods... I'm going to have to hope that a guy comes by to help me.
Totally. I was driving on the freeway recently, and for some reason we have had an influx of hitchhikers. Like, I don't remember the first couple years of living in Coeur d'Alene having hitchhikers, but now I see quite a few, and I don't know what that is about one way or the other. But I saw this guy just like walking, and I thought like, and he looked like a little bit older.
Yeah.
And he was clean. He he looked like showered or whatever, and he had what I thought was a gas can. I was like, oh, that poor guy. I should probably stop and help him. Yeah. And then I was like, don't be a fucking idiot, Lynze. And then I didn't drive that far before I had to get off the freeway, maybe a mile or two, and I never saw a broken down vehicle. And I thought like, oh, good thing you didn't, because you just don't know.
Let somebody else pick him up.
I know. But like my bleeding heart wants to pick up all of them and be like, which way you going? I'll give you a ride. Like, oh my God. Maybe if I had a pickup truck, I would let them sit in the back of the truck.
I mean, not that I want you picking up anybody.
No, I'm not going to. I won't.
But I will say, just from doing so much true crime stuff with Time Suck, you're more at risk being the hitchhiker than picking up a hitchhiker. Like, there's a lot of stories of hitchhikers being picked up by serial killers, more from like the 70s and 80s.
Totally.
That then just disappear forever, or their bones are found later or whatever. Not as many stories of the person picking up the hitchhiker.
Yeah, the driver. Yeah.
The driver. But there are those stories too, actually.
Yeah,
John Wayne Gacy was one of those guys. Yeah.
Totally. I thought you were going to say something really nice, like, I don't want you to, but you've been working out so much and you're super ripped right now, so I have a lot of confidence you'd be okay.
You are super ripped. You're in shape, but I don't have confidence that you would take anybody in a fight.
How rude. Okay, and then also, this is super random, but what is watercress? Like, your first lady, you said that she was
selling it.
And I was like, did you say watercress? C-R-E?
C-R-E-S-S.
Okay, so not crest, like the toothpaste, or like a crest.
It is an aquatic flowering plant in the cabbage family.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like the salad you get, like a watercress and endive salad. Okay.
Yeah.
That is not what I was thinking. And I just thought she was selling nonsense. I'm like, oh, she just getting jars, filling them with water. And because they said that she was a little bit eccentric. So that woman that caught on fire and died, I thought like, oh, maybe she's just selling fake holy water kind of thing.
No, watercress leaves, stems, and fruit can be eaten raw.
Yeah, no, it's delicious. I just didn't know that's what we were talking about.
Interesting stuff. Ancient Romans thought eating it would cure mental illness.
Okay, well, let's get on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be online ordering some watercress supplements.
Yeah, all kinds of uses for watercress.
Okay, and then my final question is, in the pile of bodies that they found, the original investigator said that they suspected carbon monoxide poisoning.
That was what, supposedly according to the lore. Yeah.
I feel like a dumb idiot because I didn't think that you could experience carbon dioxide poisoning in a big open space like that. I thought
carbon monoxide, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you needed to be in a house, or like some enclosed space. In a forest like that, I was like, really?
I think you generally do, just because to have it be like have the concentration be high enough.
Yeah.
So if it happened like outdoors, it would have to be like a massive leak.
Okay.
And I think for it to happen, and I will say I'm also skeptical of that part of the story.
Yeah.
Mostly because when I tried to find other articles by that, gosh, it was not Stanford, but whatever like old newspaper I referenced.
Yeah, that's long out of print. Yeah. Don't worry about finding it. It's okay. We know what you're talking about.
Right. I could not find evidence of that existing. I couldn't find.
I guess it makes sense though. I guess it's plausible.
Smarten Post.
Smarten Post.
I don't know that there actually was a Smarten Post.
But plants give off CO2, so I guess.
I don't think it would happen naturally. It would have to be like some kind of. I don't know.
Okay, so you felt suspicious of it as well.
Yeah, I felt suspicious too, but I don't know for sure. I'm talking out of my ass a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Well, that answers all of my questions. I love stories from England because they're just generally, they have some sort of level of like, okay, I could see that happening.
Different like credibility somehow.
Yeah, it's probably nonsense, but.
Are you ready to leave England and head to America's England, West Virginia?
America.
I'm pretty sure West Virginia has literally never been called America's England before.
No, I doubt it. People in Massachusetts are like losing their minds right now.
As I mentioned before, a decent amount of historical setup for this one as well. The Lake Shawnee amusement park near Princeton, West Virginia, is one of the most eerie abandoned places in the U.S. Many believe that Lake Shawnee was never meant to be settled, and that doing so unleashed something dark and deadly. The violent history of Lake Shawnee goes back to the 18th century, when a man named Mitchell Clay established an 800-acre homestead in an area once known as Clover Bottom. Mitchell and Phoebe Clay were the first English settlers of Mercer County, arriving back in 1775. Their homestead previously belonged to John Draper, who was awarded the land for his service in the French and Indian War. Draper deeded the land to Mitchell Clay. Mitchell and his wife would raise 14 children on their farm.
Holy shit.
Yeah, 14, which was part of the historic land of the Shawnee tribe. And the tribe not overjoyed to have any outsiders living on their land. In August of 1783, tragedy struck the family that resulted in an event that became known as the Clover Bottom Massacre. The family had recently harvested their grain crop for the year, and Mitchell Clay asked two of his sons, 17-year-old Bartley and 16-year-old Ezekiel, to build a fence around their harvested crop, while Mitchell left home to go hunting. While Bartley and Ezekiel worked on the fence, 20-year-old Tabitha Clay and some of her sisters were washing clothes down on the riverbank. A band of 11 Shawnee warriors had been watching the family from a nearby hilltop, and they descended upon the farm after Mitchell left with his rifle. And once they made it to the edge of the field, one of them shot Bartley. The girls heard the gunshot and their brother's scream upon being hit, and all but one ran towards the house trying to get to safety. Tabitha, though, worried that her wounded brother was now about to be killed, ran to his aid. She managed to take a knife from one of the attackers, but was quickly overpowered by another. She and Bartley were now both killed, and their brother Ezekiel was kidnapped. At the time of the attack, a man named Lincoln Blankenship was at the Clay family cabin, and when Mrs. Clay saw the chaos outside, she pleaded with Blankenship to please go and shoot the man who was now attacking her daughter. But instead of helping her save her children's lives, he fled the farm to report what had happened. Many have called Blankenship a coward, but others believe he made himself visible to the attackers to distract them or lure them away, which allowed Phoebe and her remaining children to escape. According to some accounts, Phoebe Clay, after waiting for the band of Shawnee to leave, took Tabitha and Bartley's bodies into the home, laid them on a bed, then gathered her remaining children and began the 6-mile walk to a neighbor's house.
Ooh, 6 miles.
When Mitchell Clay returned from hunting, he found his children's dead bodies in the home, and because everyone else was gone, he assumed his entire family had been killed or captured. He then left home and sought help from a party of men in the New River Valley near modern-day Parisburg, Virginia. He and these men then returned to his farm, buried his children, and went out seeking revenge. Some of the group soon found the Shawnee warriors who had stolen the family's horses. Most sources agree that Clay and other settlers retaliated against the tribe, killed an unknown number of them, including women and children.
Ooh.
Mitchell's son Ezekiel was never rescued, though. Tribe members had taken him to somewhere in Ohio, where he was tied to a stake and burned alive.
Oh my God!
And these deaths, as you'll soon see, were far from the first deaths in the area. Over 2 centuries later, a proprietor named Conley Snidow will purchase this land and establish the Lake Shawnee Amusement Park, which opened in 1926. Snidow installed major rides and attractions such as a circular swing, a Ferris wheel, a water slide. He also built a dance hall, a speakeasy, and a swimming hole. Many of the park's visitors were coal miners and their families on summer vacation. The park would remain open for the next 40 years. And while, of course, a lot of people had a lot of fun, according to the Mercer County website, 6 people also tragically died in the park. In 1946, a young boy drowned in the swimming pool when his arm got stuck in a drain pipe.
Oh, dear.
No one even knew he was drowning until he was already dead.
Oh, God.
Then on June 4th, 1961, another young boy, Wayne Harmon, also drowned in the pool, even though there were numerous swimmers in the water and several lifeguards on duty. 5 years later, in 1966, a loading truck backed into the path of the circular swing and killed a 3-year-old child mid-ride.
Oh, God. Enough already.
The park shut down a year later.
Good.
The site then sat abandoned for nearly 2 full decades until 1985, when Gaylord White, a former employee, decided to reopen the amusement park. White purchased a circular swing that looked exactly like the original, and when he checked the serial number, he realized it was the original swing set from 1926.
What?
The Lake Shawnee Amusement Park remained reopened for 3 years. Thousands of visitors came to see the rides and attractions, but high insurance prices forced the family to close in 1988. The White family now began hosting fishing tournaments in the lake and planned to make a space for the off-road motorsport of mud bogging. But while excavating for a mud bogging track, the family made a surprising discovery. Chris White, the son of Gaylord White, told the Register Herald, a local paper, "We were bulldozing and we started finding artifacts. We found arrowheads, pottery, and pots, so we stopped. We said, this is pretty interesting. Let's get somebody out here and see what we can do." A team from Marshall University was brought in and spent several years investigating the site, and they uncovered an ancient burial ground.
Wow.
Numerous artifacts, including bracelets, clothing, tools. They also found 13 skeletons, most of which were young children, and the university team stopped digging when they found those children's graves. The researchers theorized that an illness spread throughout the community, and the tribe abandoned the area after leaving behind the elderly and the youngest children. This likely occurred in the 1700s before colonization. Researchers now believe that up to 3,000 people, a whole lot more than 13 skeletons, are buried on the property.
No shit.
Because it was an ancient burial site. The White family decided not to continue developing the area out of respect for all the people buried there. They left the burial grounds intact and all the attractions in their places. The structures, including the famous circular swing, still standing today, although nature is hard at work reclaiming the land. In the late 90s, Gaylord White, his wife Jewel, and their son Gay offered campfire stories and tours of the park around Halloween. Interest grew every year, and soon paranormal groups were reaching out and asking to visit the park. The family started to allow tours for paranormal enthusiasts across the country, and that's when the area really developed a reputation for being haunted. Time now for the tale of the Lake Shawnee Haunted Amusement Park. Over the past 3 decades, numerous visitors claim to have heard footsteps, mysterious chants, and the disembodied voices of children. Some believe they've interacted with the spirit of the young girl who died on that swing. One swing, believed to be the one she was riding when she died, is marked by a red ribbon. There are reports of strange activity surrounding the swing concerning a dangling owl ornament, which is said to move on its own, even when there's no breeze. Sometimes the owl stops moving quite suddenly, as if it's just been dropped by some invisible person who is holding it. The spirit of a young boy who died on the property also thought to haunt the park. He's allegedly been spotted around the welcome area, but moves throughout the rest of the party as well. When asked if the park is really haunted, owner Chris White told the Herald Register, "What's your definition of haunted? I don't have one, but there are strange things that happen here all the time." White claimed that his father had an encounter with the young girl who died in the swings. He said Dad was on the tractor mowing the field, and he kept feeling a weight on his shoulders. He didn't know what it was. So one day he felt the weight, and he turned around, and the little girl from the swings was there. She was in a ruffled dress, and she just appeared. He wasn't scared, but the only thing he could think of was, well, if you like this tractor so much, I'm going to give it to you. So he got off of it, and he left it sitting there. It's still sitting where he left it in the late 90s. Both Gaylord White and his son Gay have now passed away. His wife Jewel wasn't sure how she would continue running the park, so she asked her family for assistance. Jewel, Chris, and some volunteers have helped keep the park going. They've created an event called Dark Carnival that occurs around Halloween every year. Jewel was worried that her husband and son would not be happy about them making the changes. However, Jewel believes her husband gave her a sign from beyond the grave to reassure her that he approved. There was a security camera near the Ferris wheel that captured a video of the safety bar unfastening itself in the middle of the night when no one was on the property. Jewel explained, "He was very particular about the Ferris wheel. He was always worried about the lock. So to me, this was him. He said it was okay. It makes me happy. I'm just glad to know that they're here. Even though I already knew it myself, I have this so I can prove it to others." It appears based on their Facebook page as if the Dark Carnival is going to be happening again this fall. But if you don't want to wait that long to go and explore the place, you can contact the park at 304-921-1580 to book a day tour or even an overnight stay. You can call or text. If you choose to take a tour, your guide will take you to the Shawnee burial grounds and tell you about the murder of the Clay children and the Clover Bottom massacre, the various sad deaths that have occurred in the park, unexplainable, seemingly paranormal incidents that guests have experienced while in the park, and you'll even be able to watch some surveillance footage of what appears to be something paranormal that they've caught on their security cameras.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just made a note about, I was thinking about our own local amusement park, Silverwood.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, how many people have died there?
I don't know. I don't know if anybody has.
I don't know. But I do wonder, like, just in that line of work, just amusement parks in general.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're trying to keep it as quiet as possible anytime there is a injury or death.
I mean, it's like Las Vegas. I don't get conspiratorial about it, but historically, especially a couple years ago and further back, when there was like a mass shooting, especially one of great magnitude, it would be in the 24-hour news cycle for weeks, if not months. And I always thought it was so weird how after that, I think it was in 2017, right around there was that country music concert.
Yes.
That crazy guy with basically the automatic rifle. I can't remember how many people passed, but it was a lot.
Somewhere between 40 and 50, I think.
So many. And I remember thinking how weird it was that it quickly went out of the news. Like, it really got very little coverage.
Yeah. I mean, for what had happened, yes, in comparison to the tragedy.
But then I was thinking, Las Vegas is a city that thrives on tourism alone.
Yes.
And they have a very big tourism board with very deep pockets, all those casinos. And I'm like, yeah, I bet there is like these meetings, these talks of like basically palms being greased, being like, please do not keep reporting on this. You're going to ruin, you're going to cost all these people their jobs, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and there's like, I'm sorry.
And that just related to like, amusement parks aren't going to have the same kind of deep pockets, but I bet there is some kind of conversations where it's like, I get that you have to like, have a story, you have to like put it in the papers, but can we please not have it in the papers day after day after day for weeks? Like, you're going to bankrupt us.
Yeah, well, I think there's two different things there. I think there's tragedies that happen that are just that. They're no one's fault. A faulty ride, just a pure accident. A kid gets tangled up on their own bathing suit underwater. I don't know, that kid whose arm got stuck in the drain pipe. But when it comes to the mass shooting thing, I think it's a little bit different. I think that there's also this element of like, and they've done studies about this to talk. It's horrible for the families.
Oh yeah,
there's two sides to that coin. People want their family member that they have lost to never be forgotten and, this, that, and the other. And then other people don't want to keep living it day after day. But what the point that I'm trying to get to is that there's also studies about if you continually talk about it, it actually encourages
more people to do it, right?
Right. So it's like sometimes, so in this instance, Las Vegas, as just the example that we're using, how long can it stay in the news cycle before they're like, okay, that's enough because we don't want this to happen again.
I hope they have that kind of integrity to think of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that there's like, they've never, as far as I can recall, and from what I know, any mass shooting that has happened, a second one has never happened in the same place.
Yeah.
It's like, there hasn't been a second shooting in Las Vegas. There hasn't been a second school shooting in pick a city, my God, which is a horrible,
or something. Yeah.
horrible even sentence to say, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But it did just get my brain going, just thinking about, because like, okay, we have this really cute, on a positive note, we have this really cute amusement park, Silverwood. It's family owned and operated here in North Idaho. It is really cute. It has this like kind of old timey vibe in parts of it with the little train that goes around and whatnot. And they just this past year expanded the water park, which is the first time they've done like a big thing like that in a long time. And then I was thinking about Scarywood as you were talking about the Dark Carnival. And I was like, oh, we're going to be in town for Scarywood this year.
I know,
like,
we should finally do it.
We should finally do it. And I was thinking like maybe there's even a way for people who live local, like we're not going to buy the tickets, but like here's what day we're going, here's what time we're going, and we're going to wait in this spot. Anybody who wants to go.
Yeah, make a note.
I did.
Oh, okay, great.
I wrote STDP meetup at Scarywood.
That'd be super fun.
Yeah, it'd be super fun.
Have more time for that stuff now.
Shoot us an email and let us know if that's something you locals would be interested in.
I like it.
Do you have photos?
I do have some photos. This first one is that old Ferris well just being completely just overgrown with foliage, but still standing.
It is kind of cool. It actually would make, this is so random, it would make a really beautiful spot for a wedding photo, like with that in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Something really happy and light in front of it. But yeah, that Ferris wheel is being taken over by nature, and I love it.
Yeah, it's cool how like the vines and stuff are just climbing up to the very top of it.
Uh-huh.
And then this is that old circular swing.
Woof. This thing is sketchy.
I know.
Sketchy AF.
But how crazy is that all those kids were swinging around? What a crazy tragedy that was. And how bad did that delivery driver feel where it's like, what were you doing backing up close to it, but then you killed a 3-year-old?
Well, I mean, we don't have a aerial shot, but I just can't understand based on this very specific photo
Mm-hmm.
where a delivery truck would even be going right now, that it would even be close to these swings.
Yeah, why would any truck be close to? Yeah.
Yeah, so it also just feels like bad planning
And
in terms of the layout of the place.
Yeah. You can see on the swing set, there's like, you can barely see them. There's some little dolls on them.
Uh-huh.
Here's a close-up.
Oh, that's so creepy.
So they've upped the creep factor by putting dolls on the swings.
Yeah, you guys, the swings hanging from this, it's just like giant metal chains, like very long chains holding very flat, uncomfortable looking pieces of metal that you would sit on. That makes the swing.
Yeah.
And now there's baby dolls on them.
Old rotted wood you're sitting on. Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not going to hold much anymore. And then just one more pic. This is just the entrance.
No way.
And they have this giant evil looking clown with
a huge mouth where it's like you walk, the mouth is the door.
And the red hair off the sides like Bozo, but it almost looks more like devil horns.
Uh-huh.
This looks like the setting for a slasher flick.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's dead trees. This was like taken in the winter or the fall, this picture, or like, late fall, winter.
There's some old trailers in the background.
I mean, it looks like where like the.
Do you remember the Ozarks where oh my God, what's her face? Ruth lived?
Ruth, yes.
If Ruth's place was a horror carnival, that's what you'd be looking at right now.
Yeah.
Oh man. Wow. Well, we're getting close to spoopy season. It's just around the corner.
And I love it.
I know. Monroe said to me the other day, she goes, "Do you know what time it almost is?" And I was like, pumpkin spice. And she was like, yes. She doesn't really care about coffee, but last year Starbucks had like a cold foam chai latte with like a pumpkin foam or something. I don't know. She loved that thing. She drank the living daylights out of it. Okay, Dan, do you have a Layla ready to go?
I do. I got a red one.
Red Layla. And of course, I feel a burp coming on. What is that?
Yep, just right when you're back to speak. Your body's like, no, let's burp right now.
Yeah, let's make it uncomfortable. Okay. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, let's go. Hey, Dan and Lynze, king and queen of the suck. I started listening to Time Suck a year ago after being recommended by some friends while discussing our favorite true crime podcasts.
Nice.
Time Suck has quickly become one of my favorites. And Dan, I love your mix of quality research, comedic relief, and appreciation for critical thinking and rationality.
Well, thank you. Not everybody likes those three in one podcast.
That is true. Anywho's, I started listening to Scared to Death just a few weeks ago, and I'm not huge into horror, but definitely have a curiosity about the world and things we can't explain with science, so I've enjoyed it a lot. The listener stories you share have prompted me to share one of my own, as it still gives me the heebie-jeebies to this day. I'm a civil engineer and also have a physics degree.
Wow.
Humble brag. So let's just say I'm extremely skeptical of most paranormal experiences and believe that most have to have some sort of scientific explanation. However, I have one life experience that continues to bother me as I have no rational explanation for it. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, and about 5 years ago, I was home from college for the summer, hanging out with my then girlfriend, now wife. We were bored, which prompted me to suggest we go out into the country somewhere to stargaze. We drove north of Omaha at around 11 p.m. out into the country where I found a gravel road that was on top of a hill surrounded by cornfields. Thinking the hill would give us a clear view of the sky, I continued up the gravel road until I found a concrete dead-end driveway that looked like it was leading to a house that had not yet been built. The driveway was maybe 100 yards long and completely empty. I parked my car facing north and perpendicular to the gravel road we drove in on. There were no lights anywhere. It seemed like the perfect place to see the stars. We got good and comfy, sitting in my car, looking out the windshield, and with the windows rolled down, we found ourselves in a deep conversation as we waited for the stars to really shine. After a few hours of relaxing and talking, we decided to head back home. Right as I stuck my keys into the ignition, my girlfriend grabbed my arm so suddenly and so forcefully, it startled me. I looked at her, confused as to what was wrong. She was pointing with the other hand at the gravel road out in front of us. About 50 feet ahead of us, I could make out the white outline of a tall, cloaked figure moving from left to right along the perpendicular road. Every single hair on my body stood on end. I clenched my butthole tighter than I ever have. My girlfriend and I both sat there frozen in fear and confusion, staring at the ghostly figure. My brain scrambled to comprehend what I was seeing. The figure was tall and gangly, taller than the cornfield behind the road. My wife would later describe it as a white Gumby shape, and it seemed to be almost skating along at a quick pace, faster than the average human could walk. Was someone out there riding their bike or going for a run? And who would do that at 2 a.m. on a gravel road in the middle of nowhere? And it didn't actually appear to be running, though. It was as if it was not bobbing up and down, but just moving at an unnatural pace. We watched it for what seemed like 5 minutes, but in reality was probably a whole 20 seconds. I debated turning on my headlights to get a better look, but something inside me told me not to let this thing know that we were there. We continued to watch whatever it was drift to the right until it finally disappeared out of view. After another 30 seconds passed, I started my car and took a left, hauling ass in the opposite direction. My girlfriend was silent the entire ride home and then begged my parents to let her stay the night with me that night. I told them what we had seen, and still to this day it gives me chills thinking about it. It continues to baffle me, actually. For the longest time, I've been obsessed with understanding what we experienced, and I couldn't find anything online or in movies that resembled it. Until I stumbled upon a cryptid called the Fresno Nightcrawlers. Give them a Google. There are multiple videos and pictures of them. In summary, they look like a tall, white pair of walking pants with a head attached. Doesn't sound too spooky when you put it that way, I guess. The creepiest thing about them is how unnatural their gait is. And to this day, they are the closest cryptid to what we think we saw in person. I think the show Fact or Faked actually tried to recreate the videos of the Nightcrawlers using puppets, but couldn't prove that they were fake. There's my one spooky paranormal experience. Maybe you guys or some other listeners have heard of something similar. I'd love to hear from others about it. Thanks for everything you guys do, and keep up the good work. If you end up reading this, it'd be great if you gave a shout out to my then girlfriend, now wife, Megan, and comfort her that she's never going to see a Nightcrawler ever again.
Taylor, thank you.
Yeah. So the Fresno Nightcrawlers. I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, I have, because I remember looking into them and thinking about doing a story, but I don't think we did do a story. I have here's a picture of them.
I refuse to look it up. Oh God, I'm so glad I didn't look that up. Because last night I was working on this, and I was sitting at our dining room table by the back sliding door.
Yeah.
And it was just dark enough that any movement I saw outside, I was like, nope, didn't like it.
Yeah.
So it does look like very long legs that come up. Actually, you know what the shape is like a compass.
Oh, yeah.
Not a compass like north, south, east, west, but like a mathematical compass.
Yep.
And so it has these two legs that kind of go out, and then it comes to...
Not much of a body.
Yeah, a top. Or like a pair of chopsticks is kind of how it looks. But blurred edges and just... Oh, so weird.
Yeah, it is so weird. Made me think of makes me think, as opposed to cryptid, makes me think of extraterrestrial.
Oh.
Just something which would be why you would never find the remains of these things.
Okay.
Yeah. Or it could be something that doesn't, I don't know. I guess there could be, I was gonna say a ghost cryptid hybrid. I was just trying to think of something where it's you see this thing, but that doesn't mean that the thing has physical presence. It might, like a ghost, you can see the image of something, but you couldn't actually touch it. Maybe that's what these things are. Maybe you can see them, but you couldn't actually touch them. They don't have any actual physical real body or anything.
Yeah.
Because they're some other dimension.
So you could just walk right through it.
Like a ghost. Yeah. Fresno Night. I don't remember where I heard about those. I think I was just thinking about doing an episode on them, or maybe I mentioned them on TimeSuck once, but I've looked into them before.
All I know
Taylor.
is that I was trying to reread the stories. I read them several times before we do them here, and just make little adjustments for my speaking patterns. And last night you were done. It was about 10 o'clock, and I was still going. I was finishing up, and I just wanted to focus, and I needed to read this story one more time, and I was a little anxious. And then We had music going. Then you were listening to something on a speaker. We had music going. Then you were listening to something very loudly on your phone, and you were crunching cereal. And I almost fucking murdered you. I couldn't take it. My misophonia was on high alert.
Yep, you went and got your headphones.
Yep, that happens when I'm scared.
Oh, okay.
Like when I'm, anxious and every little sound throws me.
Yeah.
So that's how good you got me, Taylor. Thank you.
Yeah, good one, Taylor.
Okay, are you ready to head to a swampy spoop?
I am. I know you were very excited about this one.
Yeah, I think it's a fun one. Hey, Dan. Hey, Lynze.
Hello.
My name is Jake, and the story I'm about to tell you is completely true. It was easily the most eerie experience I've had to date. I haven't really spoken to anyone about it other than the old Cajuns around town who know what I'm talking about. One summer, about 5 years ago, I went on a weekend canoe trip in Thibodaux, Louisiana for my 23rd birthday. Thibodaux is a swampy town where my aunt and uncle live. Specifically, they live really close to the Bayou Lafourche. I put in the bayou early that morning and started my journey. My aunt didn't want me to go alone, but I'm used to roaming the swamps by myself. I'm an avid outdoorsman. If I had free time, I generally like to spend it in the swamp. When I start to feel like I got too many pots on the boil, I go to the swamp. It's a place of rest and ease for me. No one bothers you there unless it's a curious snake or gator, and even then, they don't bother me much unless they get a bit too curious. Growing up, we all heard the tales of ghosts and monsters that roam these swamps, but I never saw one in all my time out there. I'd been going down to the swamp for a few hours at this point. During this time, I felt like I had many sets of eyes on me, feeling my hair stand up and whatnot. I began to start to feel unsettled, which was odd. Feeling eyes on you in the swamp isn't a new feeling. The thing about the swamp is that things out here see you before you see them. Big cats, gators, snakes, anything really. But this feeling was different. The sun was setting, so I tried to find a bank that wasn't just mud to tie off and set up camp for the night, when suddenly I felt something hit the bottom of my canoe. I thought it must have been a tree stump or something like that. I hopped out, putting my lantern on top of the canoe. The swamp waters are murky, so it's hard to see, and making too much of a fuss will bring the wrong attention, so I knew I had to hurry. Once I pulled the boat free, I took it over to the west bank and tied it up. By this time, the sun had completely set. I had my lantern out to make sure I didn't set up camp in a gator nest. That's bad business, of course. All the while, I was feeling uneasy, but I just shrugged it off. I set up camp, got a nice fire going, set up my snake lines and all that. That night seemed especially dark, though. I couldn't see that far away from my camp, which is unusual because the moonlight down here is really bright most nights. There weren't any clouds in the sky either. I was starting to eat my dinner, back to a tree. A can of Beanie Weenies if y'all were curious. When I started to see a dull, faint light in the distance, a bluish-white hue. My gut told me to move camp, and I thought what exactly had gotten into myself. I ain't scared of no gator, and I ain't scared of no light, was what I thought. Well, that night, while I was sleeping, something woke me up. I looked at my watch, and it was midnight, even. I heard what I thought were footsteps. Human footsteps, hearing the leaves and twigs snap beneath the weight. "Help me," I heard a woman say. I felt sick, rubbed my eyes to make sure I was actually awake. I saw no shadow outside my tent, no evidence anyone was out there. "Hello?" I said. And then I heard those footsteps take off running, and then I heard the water splash up like someone did a cannonball in it. I grabbed my machete and went outside the tent, the faint light of the fire flicking. I could still hear the water rippling like it had just been disturbed. I don't spook easy, but I know what I heard. Did I hear a bird, though? Maybe it was a gator outside the tent. Maybe I was wrong. I turned around to go back to the tent when a woman's face appeared before me, sunken cheeks, wet stringy hair, eyes bloodshot. The face seemed to just float around, as if all of the light from the moon and the dying fire just weren't there. "I tried. I really did," she said, before vanishing. I remember standing there. I couldn't move. I'd say it was a mixture between fright and disbelief because I was still trying to figure out what had just happened. I quickly threw my tent and all my stuff back in the canoe and started back home immediately. I was unnerved and was even getting spooked by the reflection of the light of my own lantern in the gator's eyes. Everything seemed to be watching my every move that night. And I don't go back to that area much these days, unless it's during the day. Yee. Fucking swamps.
I know.
God, bayous, they're so creepy.
Yeah, Jake is a lot braver with swamps than I am. Just the thought of taking a canoe.
Holy shit, absolutely not.
Into like that bayou kind of water, that swamp water, like day or night, but especially as it's getting close to night.
Hell to the no.
And yeah, and just talking about the murky water where you can't see.
And then he jumps in to pull his boat up shore. I was like, get the fuck out of here, Jake.
And I know there's, like it's all what you're used to.
Yes, of course.
And if you grow up in an area, and I've watched those shows. Oh God, there was some show. It was like these. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a reality show following these Cajun guys.
Yeah.
Maybe it was called Swamp People, actually. Like out in the swamp.
Yeah.
And they would do things at night and get in the water and go fishing and go hunting this or that animal. But I'm like, no way. I hate dark water on Lake Coeur d'Alene.
Where there's absolutely nothing.
There's nothing that can hurt me. And actually, when I went swimming with the kids last week, I was swimming back to the boat. We took the boat out for a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And I'm swimming back, and it just hits me at the weirdest times.
Yeah.
And because I thought I felt something touch my leg, and it was probably just like a weed or whatever.
Yeah, a little fish.
Yep. And I literally was saying very quietly but out loud to myself, there's nothing there that can bite you. There's nothing here that can bite you. There's nothing here that can bite you. Like I just hate the thought of like not knowing what's around me.
Hilarious. Yeah. When he said that he was setting up snake lines, I was like, get the fuck out of here, Jake. I can never go camping with you. Because
snake lines.
I love to camp. I really do.
Those?
But, some sort of like, not a tripwire, but it's got to be some kind of like, I don't know
what that is. I just Googled it really quick, and I don't know. It's not something we do around here.
Maybe it's just like a colloquial kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a colloquialism for something else that we would be more familiar with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess okay, if you were going to camp like in the back country, you would probably do something to alert yourself if bears were close by.
Yeah.
You hang your food in a tree
you hang
far
your
away.
Food in a tree.
And then,
but other than that, you just put yourself in a tent not near your food.
Yeah.
And I mean, you
Hope
have
for the
like bear
best.
spray and odds are, I mean, if I'm out, I'm going to have a gun too.
Yeah.
And it's like, just in case, and you hope that you are a good shot.
Oh my God.
Worst case scenario. But it's like, it's so rare that a bear tries to get into a tent.
Totally.
If there's food in there.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Different. But if it's just you and your food's elsewhere, that's like a super beyond rare occurrence.
But even like when we would just go camping in a place where, like if there's going to be a snake, it's just going to be like little baby snake, like nothing. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
And there's no bears. I'm still scared with every like rustle I hear. So I cannot imagine camping in the bayou. Get out of here, Jake. You are a different kind of man. You're so brave.
I know.
Honestly, it's just like you're made of something else.
Yeah.
If you're like happy to just like jump in the water real quick and pull your boat up. I mean, he even says like murky waters, you gotta be fast.
Oh my God. Or you just can't, or you can just avoid them.
Yeah. Or you could just not do that.
Yeah.
We went on one bayou tour in
it was cool.
It was cool. And we're in one of those like airboats, you're it's kind of like a
an hour or two from New Orleans.
And it's kind of like a pontoon boat where you're a little bit like up above the water. And even then I was like, nope. And I don't want to say that the things in the water there are trained, but they are so used to human interaction at this point, and they're used to getting snacks from the guides. Like it's just not a big deal. And my heart rate, I bet it was elevated the entire time. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna fall in, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna fall in, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna fall in. Like that's all I could think.
We saw that boar, that big old boar.
Oh, that wild boar scared me.
Well, and where the boar was, I just remember thinking like, it's so funny, like not that I'm that fast or agile now, but I just think like if I'm in the woods and the ground is flat and there's not a bunch of vines and stuff that are going to trip you, I feel some level of comfort where I'm probably wrong, but in my mind at least, I think like if a bear or if there was a boar.
Oh, you are so fucking wrong,
I'm
dude.
like, I could like jump behind this tree and I could like weave through the trees and that would like, give me a chance to get away.
Who are you?
I know, but that's what I think. But in the swamp, I'm like, I can't run in a swamp. Like it's either like nasty water or a bunch of tree roots. Everything's slippery. There's fucking snakes and alligators all over the place.
No.
Yeah.
You said that like this like bob and weave. Immediately, I was just like, bro, you are not some agile football player.
I know.
Who's going to bob and weave his way out of this. You're fucking dead.
I know, but in my mind.
It's cute.
Mm-hmm.
It's cute.
My fight or flight.
Okay, one more, a little palate cleanser to close out the show.
Let's do it.
Oh, great mother sucker and high peeper. My name is Kylie. And first of all, let me just say that I've been a loyal time sucker for about a year.
Thanks, Kylie.
And discovered Scared to Death about 6 months ago. I have been hesitant to submit my story for a while since it's not that scary, but perhaps it could serve as one of Lynze's palate cleansers. Well, you're correct. I was inspired to write in after an episode a couple of weeks ago when Lynze talked about how some people can just be more susceptible and sensitive to having experiences with the other side due to their open-mindedness. As of now, I'm 21 years old and a college student at the University of Georgia. I maintain fair grades and have a pretty active social life, but something has always set me apart from the others. I'm majoring in biology, and as a science-minded individual, I tend to identify with Dan's more skeptical point of view when it comes to things we cannot easily explain. However, I have always had a bit of a sixth sense that I just don't understand. My mother first identified what she refers to as clairvoyance when I was about 3. I was an intelligent and sensitive kid from what they tell me, but otherwise very normal. One evening, my mom was giving me a bath when I said, "Look, there goes May. She's going up the stairs," in a dreamy, sort of detached voice as I stared past my mother. My mom looked at me for a moment. "May? Do you mean our neighbor May?" she asked. An older couple lived across the street from us a few houses down. The couple had always been very sweet to me, and I knew them pretty well. "Yep," I said casually, going back to whatever kids do in a bath, as if this creepy as fuck thing never came out of my mouth. My mom left the bathroom to peek out the front window to view red flashing ambulance lights in front of, you guessed it, May and her husband's house. Creeped out, my mom continued about her night to find out the next morning that May had in fact passed away that night around the time I was in the bathtub. My mom began to forget about this incident until I formed a habit of predicting the weather perfectly almost every day. "Make sure you bring an umbrella when you go to the grocery store, Mommy," I distinctly remember reminding her one day on my way to school, and sure enough, on this otherwise very clear, beautiful day, torrential fucking downpour as my mom left the grocery store. My mom told me that this happened all the time, as if I could feel what would happen that day. I predicted violent storms and sunny days alike. I was particularly afraid of fire alarms and would refuse to go to school on days when I felt like they might go off. Of course, my parents would pick me up and carry me to the car on those days. Sure enough, every time I dug my heels into the ground on fire alarm mornings, the fire alarm would absolutely go off at school. My mom told me recently that when I was a kid, she went to my dad's mother to see if she had any insight on my strange behavior. Grandma told her that it could be attributed to my gypsy heritage on both sides of my dad's family, and second sight was a gift more commonly found in the gypsy communities. My grandmother and grandfather were born in Liverpool, England, and both of them had strong gypsy bloodlines. My grandmother told my mom that it was nothing to worry about and to encourage me to open up to my gift, but to not let it consume me. Fast forward a few years, from around ages 8 to 15, I experienced a significant amount of loss in my family, losing both grandparents, aunts, uncles, and one cousin only a few years older than me. The weird thing was that when each person close to me died, I knew about it before anyone told me. Each night of the passing of a relative, I would dream of something that I associated with them, and then the next morning, I would be able to tell my parents what happened before they could tell me. They thought it was strange, and I didn't know what to think. For example, the night my grandmother died, I dreamt of my pet betta fish being crushed by a book, and it peeled off the page in the form of a butterfly and flew away. My grandmother got me that fish, and butterflies, well, they were just our thing. When she was first diagnosed with cancer years before, she had told me that if she was to leave this earth, every time I saw a butterfly, it was simply her waving hello. Throughout the following years, there were times I could see butterflies out of the corner of my eye, or I could hear the voices of my loved ones in my ear, and I could absolutely sense their presences around me. It wasn't spoopy, it was nice. I could literally have conversations with those who had passed on. I barely told anyone, though. I didn't want them to think I was crazy. And this brings us to the present. I cannot predict the weather to a T anymore, but I can feel big things before they happen. I get bad feelings and I get good feelings, and shit is about to go down feelings. But now I believe that my sixth sense exists in my relationships and connections with other people and living things. I work with horses at my job. Recently, I found out that I can almost transfer calming energy to them through touch when they are scared or upset. The same has worked for me with dogs, cats, and even an injured deer of all things, and even to a friend of mine who needed some comfort. Dan, I know this sounds like some wackadoodle bullshit, but I don't have any other way to explain it. I can look at a perfect stranger and feel their mood through the way their energy moves around them, and am an incredibly good judge of character. If I have a bad feeling about someone, it's difficult to shake it. I try not to judge until they give me a solid reason to actually trust my gut, but I have never been wrong. On a positive note, I've been able to create beautiful friendships with people who I have a good feeling about. One particularly strange time, I knew that a friend of a friend, a girl I had never met or even heard about before, was pregnant the moment I walked into the room she was in. No one mentioned anything about it while they were there, but as soon as they left, my other friend turned to me and said, "I just got the craziest news," he began. "She's pregnant," I finished his sentence. "How did you know that? She's only been pregnant for like 2 weeks. Did someone say something?" my friend asked. Needless to say, I was shooketh. "I don't know how I know," I said, chills covering my body. "I just know, I guess." And the final and perhaps most noteworthy sixth sense experience of my life occurred just 2 months ago. My mom's best friend, Mary, is very similar to me. She also has the second sight and came over to my house with a game called Psychic Circle. I sort of shrugged it off, willing to give it a shot. She described it as a positive Ouija board where you can talk to your loved ones who have passed on. On the board, there are letters, numbers, star signs, and words such as close, near, far, yes, no, etc. On the board, there are random small pictures around the outside edge. We decided to play in the basement so that we would not be disturbed. And before you freak out, the basement is fully furnished with windows and a pretty view of the backyard. It's not a creepy basement where, say, you'd get attacked by a demon. We settled around the circle, sitting on the floor. Mary said a ritual beforehand, words along the lines of, "I'm always safe, I'm always protected, I am surrounded by love," and a bunch of other hippy-dippy stuff. Finally, she called on the spirits. "Is there anyone with us today?" she asked. As if on cue, my extremely reclusive cat appeared from behind the television stand. Her name is Gladys, and I love her, but I never get to see her because she always hides. She walked over and sat right there in the circle with us. She was staring right at me without breaking her gaze once. I almost didn't notice that the planchette-type piece had moved over to the image of a butterfly in one of the corners, and that the cat had put a white little paw on the word near. I felt warm and comforted as though I was in my grandmother's arms again. I knew that somehow, some way, she was using the cat as a vessel to be more present with us. We continued asking questions for a while, and then when we finished, it was almost as if Gladys realized where she was and bolted back to her usual spot behind the television. Even to this day, I remain a skeptic. I have never dug any further into becoming a medium or a psychic, nor do I want to. I'm happy with the way things are. Dan, Lynze, I do hope you are doing well during these crazy times. Keep up the amazing work, and thank you for keeping me and so many others entertained throughout this entire COVID apocalypse nightmare. Keep on sucking and scaring us to death. Kylie.
Well, thanks, Kylie. I hope you're still listening.
Yeah, I know. I love, we really do, people ask all the time, how do you pick? And really totally do just choose at random and try to go back, go forward, go back, go forward. So, this could have been sent in 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Wild times.
That is.
And Kylie, if you're listening, the most interesting thing happened to me today. We don't see a lot of butterflies around here. And when I was when I was reading the story yesterday, I felt very connected to it in a variety of ways, specifically when she talks about a lot of family loss in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
My family absolutely experienced. My brother and I have done tallies before. It's something like 20-ish people, either immediate family or one step removed in this very short period of time. And a huge portion of my childhood was just spent in a funeral home and
crazy.
cemeteries. It was just like, even every once in a while we'll talk about it as a family. Like, remember when we used to have huge family gatherings? Yeah, I guess we don't do that anymore because we lost so much family. Like, it was just like a weird thing that kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I was feeling very connected to that. And then this morning after I worked out, I was pulling into the garage and this beautiful, huge butterfly flew in front of our garage. And when I say I never see butterflies here, I mean like so
Yeah,
rarely.
they are rare for whatever reason.
Yeah. And so, Kylie, if you're listening, I just feel like that was a message from your grandmother, just sending you a little extra love, and that, I don't know, she was excited to be featured on Scared to Death.
Oh, I love that. And I don't think I'd ever heard of a positive Ouija board before.
No.
I can't remember what Kylie called it.
The psychic circle?
Oh, yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. I did not look it up because, again, it was late last night. I was scared of everything.
The psychic circle.
Yeah.
Sounds like a little variation on it. I want to see like a picture of one. Yeah, because I've never heard of that.
Well, yeah, and because she had a good experience with it, I think it's probably one of those things too where, like, you know, with a Ouija board, I would consider saying that you could have a positive Ouija board experience, because I think it's about like, what are your intentions? Who are you trying to contact? Who else is in the circle? Okay, psychic circle. So it's
looks
like
very different.
Yeah, very different. It's sort of like a oh gosh, it almost has like an Aztec sort of like
a Mayan calendar or something.
Yes, Mayan calendar. Yes, it kind of has that vibe. It's really pretty and colorful. Almost feels a little psychedelic.
Just the colors they use on that one.
Okay, yeah, it has like, you know, the various astrological signs and the whole alphabet, numbers. Yeah, it's pretty cute. Interesting. Oh yeah, listen, open, hello, go, other. Maybe, give, no, close, stop. Interesting words. Wait. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, Kylie, thanks so much for that. I do love a positive experience.
Yeah, me too. I hope you got your biology degree.
Yes. I hope that you're somewhere being a fancy biologist, doing smart people stuff. I love stuff like that.
Do you want to thank Annabelle's first, or do you want me to?
I can go first, Dan. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank our Annabelles for their continued love and support. You guys are the freaking best. Sybil Spirit Seekers, Summer Martin, Terry Stone Cheatham, John, Allie Hempstead. Okay, now, CDLG Hensley. I don't know, Coeur d'Alene G. Hensley. I don't know. Nutella-covered toes.
All right, there's a fetish.
Everybody's got one. The sock that got away. And Chessie Cat. Like Cheshire Cat?
Chessie Cat. This first Annabelle has the best name I've seen in a while. This is great. Titty Sprinkles.
That's hilarious. What is a titty sprinkle?
No idea, but it sounds glorious.
Fair.
I picture just glitter.
Just
glitter on boob.
Yeah. I picture like a drag queen who's got a bra that shoots glitter out the nipple section.
Sarah Bonebreak, Christiana Arnadotter, Ree Rodriguez, your boy Alex S.
Okay, Alex.
Livid, Joel Martin, Kate Kelly, Kelly Amos, Kelly Amos, and Bajan Tajiji or Bajan Tagigi.
Tough ones.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That last name, Tahghighi.
I don't know. That's why I gave it
Looks
to you.
cool.
I was like, you can have a hard one. I had hard ones last week.
Cool looking name.
Yeah. And then I actually just have one spoopy shout out this week.
Okay.
To RJ from Nikki. I can't wait to marry you. They were a little delayed in sending this in. So they got married last week on 8/13, which is also our anniversary. So big congrats to you guys. And the message was, no measure of time will be long enough, but let's start with forever.
Oh, that's adorable.
Oh, no measure of time with you will be long enough, but let's start with forever. So cute. So yeah, guys, just a reminder about spoopy shoutouts. Always welcome to have them. You can send them to info@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. We do record a few weeks ahead of time. So if you're aiming to have a shout out at a particular time, you want to get, about a 6-week lead on it, because other people are like already pushing for things. I know that like right around Halloween, I think we're already full.
Okay.
And then just, one other thing. We ran into some really fun fans at the grocery store this last weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not this last weekend as to when you hear this, but as to when we're recording.
Sure.
And it was so sweet. They were like, oh, we didn't want to bother you. And it's like, always feel free to come and say hi.
Mm-hmm.
We love it. I mean, I guess if you see us screaming and yelling at each other, which would literally never happen, but read the room. But I've never met a fan and been like, oh, Jesus, they just really interrupted something. How dare they?
Nope, me either.
No, we're not like that. We love to say hi. And so feel free if you see us out and about.
Please do.
Yay.
And that is our show. Thank you for continuing to send in your personal tales of terror to mystory@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. You can email us, as always, for everything else at info@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. Thank you to Logan Keith for scoring today's show. Thanks to Heather Rylander, organizing the My Story emails. And thanks to book editor Drew Atana, polishing and preparing listener stories now for book number 6.
Woohoo.
Hopefully next week we'll let you know how the sales are going.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thanks to Olivia Lee for finding both of the stories I told this week. We're on Facebook and Instagram, where we post the pics that accompany these episodes and more at Scared to Death Podcast. We also have a private Facebook group, Creeps and Peepers, full of fellow horror lovers. Big thanks to the All Seeing Eyes, the Creeps and Peepers moderators. You're fantastic, and you continue to do a great job. Enjoy your nightmares, Creeps and Peepers. Hope you were scared to death.
Bye.
If spirits threaten me in this place, fight water by water and fire by fire. Banish their souls into nothingness and remove their powers until the last trace. Let these evil beings flee through time and space. Evil may pass through, but hath no home here within, scared to death.
Mad Magic Productions.
Good scream.